G'day there guys, what's your favourite childhood memory? Mine's definitely not the time that I fell off my skateboard and scraped my face. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's bloody good content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy. Thank you. Posted by user Artorian Scribe. Titled, Am I the a-hole for leaving 2 days early because Santa didn't bring me or my future son anything like he did for everyone else in the family? Okay, I'm 90% sure that I am, but I've let it sit for a day and I'm still hurt, so I need some outside perspective. Before we get into this, I'm very aware that many people in the world get nothing at all for Christmas. I actually spent weeks leading up to Christmas volunteering, virtually this year, for the Battered Women's Shelter and a foster care organization. Prior to this Christmas, we quarantined for weeks and we all got tested. We are one of those families that doesn't go into stores, hooray curbside, or eat out, and we are all fortunate enough to work from home or be retired. Now, my mum does all the shopping for Christmas, full stop. She asked what I wanted, and because I'm pregnant, I just asked for the stuff for the baby, especially since I won't have a baby shower. She said fine, I'll get that stuff, but what about you and your husband? Well, we really didn't want for much, so I threw together 3 ideas for each of us, but told her to please shop for baby. I also gave them a link to a registry with over 40 small items selected, so they weren't on their own. Meanwhile, I got them what they asked for. My dad a Fire Stick TV and contributed to his Oculus. My mum some jewelry from Pandora and hand-blown glass cups she wanted. My brother, 24 male, who still lives with them, a case for the iPad they got him and $100. My parents still do Santa, the whole bit. The cookies, the milk, the presents that magically show up. It's their choice, and we don't ask for it, but we play along because it makes them happy. We come downstairs yesterday morning and everyone else has gifts from Santa. We do not. My dad just slips us a note saying Santa is done for us, so we sit there awkwardly while my mum, dad, and brother open all their gifts from Santa. They struggled to find gifts for me at all. They found plenty for my husband, like the gardening stuff that he wanted, but the only real gift they gave me were a pair of Adidas shoes I didn't ask for, a perfume I don't wear, and a ramen I like. That's fine. All I wanted all along were things for the baby who they've known for weeks will be a boy. They gave us 3 onesies and an ugly nursing pillow. The icing on the cake was my older brother, 40 male, and his family have a whole stack of presents to be sent to them. Just for him. We're talking power tools, drill sets, brand name clothes, and shoes just for him, not to mention his wife and kids. Here's what might make me an a-hole. Not wanting to spoil everyone's fun by sulking, I chose to return 2 days earlier than planned. My husband is trying to be understanding, but said I may be the a-hole for expecting anything at all, and for leaving so unexpectedly. In fact, the entire family made passive-aggressive comments the entire day, but I ignored them all. The only person I felt bad for was my dad, because he seemed truly hurt. I feel as if it was just me and my future son who was neglected, so I left. Am I the a-hole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they may be the a-hole. I believe I may be the a-hole because I left 2 days earlier than planned after feeling snubbed by my family, aka Santa, and I'm maybe too old to feel that way? I'm not sure. It was a big shock to my dad, and I'm not sure if my response was justified. My husband seems to think I'm in the wrong on this one. I'm not sure. From what you've told me, I would be inclined to say not the a-hole for this one, because there's an obvious favoritism for a brother who isn't even there. But the fact your husband and father are reacting the way they are leads me to believe there's something going on that either you aren't aware of, or they're perceiving these events entirely differently to you. To err on the safe side though, I'm staying in your camp for this one, because if they truly are punishing you for leaving a Christmas that you weren't made to feel welcome in, then screw them, I say. That's no way to treat people you care about, and you have every right to feel the way you do and leave them to their own devices, OP. So my vote is of course not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Meh45653 says, "Look, I'm not going to pretend this life you lead is not foreign to me. All of that? All of those presents? Holy Jesus! Having said that, not the a-hole. If you didn't make a scene, if you didn't throw a tantrum and all that, hey, you weren't happy, and you deserve to separate yourself from a situation that makes you feel less than, unseen, and forgotten. 100%. I'm sure you'll get comments about entitlement and having to be grateful and all that, but there's an obvious discrepancy in the way you were treated and the way everyone else around you were treated. That's not cool. That, I feel, anyone should understand. You made an effort for your family. You participated. You showed up and pitched in and did the thing that everyone expected you to do. The effort towards you was not matched, and that's just not fair. Be in your feels. Hell, even be angry. And sure, in the grand scheme of things it doesn't even matter, but don't let them make you believe that you shouldn't be disappointed and hurt. All of this, not the a-hole. You're allowed to feel hurt and disappointment. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. PD Watt says, not the a-hole. Instead of throwing a temper tantrum, you went back home where you would feel free to explore your feelings. I wonder if the shoes and perfume or regifts if they fall so far out of your personality. I would collect your thoughts and call your dad to ask why Santa was done for you and their future grandson. Ask if you offended them in some way. And next year, perhaps all the years after that, spend Christmas with the in-laws. I think that's the part that gets me the most about this post. The mother goes out of her way to still have presents from Santa for herself, her husband, and all her adult children. But the one adult child who's carrying a baby doesn't get any gifts from Santa? Correct me if I'm wrong, but Santa is supposed to be for kids, not adults, right? Isn't this all backwards? Not the a-hole. And Kitsumi Cat says, not the a-hole. Let's be honest here. You were an afterthought. When you didn't jump for joy and left, they were mad. Now, next year, you can just skip the Christmas with them and go celebrate with the in-laws. And OP replies, honestly, my husband wants to skip all of it and just stay home next year. His parents did nothing wrong and are all super lovely and fair people. I may need to push him, but I believe we'll be taking your advice. 100%. What's that saying? Go where you are appreciated, not tolerated. And now on to the update. First of all, thank you all so much. Your responses were really overwhelming, as were the awards. Really, truly, thank you. Having someone understand, let alone so many, really helped me take a massive step forward. One of the commenters suggested actually taking a 23andMe test and seeing if it matched my parents. I had done so 2 years ago and posted about it on this account, because I was struggling with the revelation that my dad is not my bio dad and how it may have impacted how I grew up. I forgot to consider this until I read this comment. My mum knows, and my dad either doesn't or doesn't want me to know. Either way, I'm not going to give my mother the ammo to hurt me with my broaching this topic with them. I know that's what she'll do. I know my mother didn't love me as a child because she called me up a couple of years ago and let slip, I wish I had loved you when you were a child. Not, I wish I had loved you more or anything like that. Just point blank, I didn't love you. It's just, none of this made itself known during Christmas. Ever. I was shocked. I've spoken with both parents, and my dad was beyond apologetic. He said that the note was really something he treasured as a symbol of leading his own house. He said that it was very poorly timed, and that he whipped it out to cover the awkwardness. He was blindsided. He works and she's retired. He trusts her with the shopping. He tried to broach the topic with my mum before I talked to her, and it did not go well. She became incredibly defensive to the point that he had to call me to tell me not to reach out to her until she called me herself. So, I waited. She said she did get me another gift, like some plates and bowls, and told me they were on the way. I thanked her. Other than that, she didn't acknowledge Christmas had happened or that there were any disparities. She knows that I know what she did was wrong, and she doesn't want to talk about it. Yes, I spoke with my husband. I laid it all out for him, and when he understood that this was much more than about a woman not getting enough gifts, he backed off his a-hole judgment. He admitted that he doesn't know what any of this is like, but that he's proud of how I handled myself given the circumstances, and he will continue to support me. He said we also have a couple of options. We can cut off my entire side of the family altogether, but that it wouldn't be possible to just cut out my mum. I'm not ready to cut ties with my dad, so we went with option 2. We set up ground rules. We will, under no circumstances, give them any unsupervised time with the baby. We will not go visit them. We will not let them stay in our house. I will not call my mum. I will answer, but be short and sweet when I talk. Even if she decides to acknowledge the past and truly apologize, I will forgive, but I won't forget. They will have a very insignificant role in my son's life. And in the comments, Segaface says, I'm still so confused. So why didn't she get you anything? It was a while ago that she let slip the love thing, which is awful. But it doesn't explain why she's kept things quiet and equal in Christmas gifts until this sudden obvious show. And to be all full of foaming incoherent rage when asked by her husband? Just beyond odd. Like, what was the catalyst for this outburst? Because if the answer is nothing, then I think she might need to get looked at. Normal a-holes with no history of such don't just go from zero to full-on gibbering lunacy. Maybe medical? And OP replies, it's really hard to say. Has she had medical issues? Yes, but she's had them for years. As I said, I used to send flowers when she was not well. I used to call. I used to check in. I live 5 hours away, so unless it's an emergency, I can't leave very easily to go to the doctor's appointments. But this has been going on for years. The best I can come up with is it's psychological. And now that I got pregnant with such ease, my husband and I literally tried for a month upon returning from deployment, so we're blessed. Maybe that's painful for her. I don't know. Sadly, I won't ever really know. I can only guess. Her pride simply will not allow her to admit there is even a problem, let alone what the source may be. She refuses to go to psychologists and psychiatrists as well, so there isn't much chance of a breakthrough. I'm sorry, I know it's frustrating. If I knew the answer to this question, I would be much happier. Is it possible your mum believes your baby isn't your husband's? That you're following in her footsteps of infidelity? Super messed up all around, and I'm glad you have a supportive husband who knows what's going on. And OP replies, no, I doubt that. She hasn't alluded to that at all, and I'm not exactly the most social of butterflies. Mostly crippling anxiety when I'm not at work that makes me an awkward friend to have. In all, I have 2 true friends. I was actually friends with my husband for 12 years prior to us dating for 2 years, most of which was long distance due to military, and then marriage right before his final deployment. He's amazing, and we're so happy to be together now that he's in reserves. St. Alvis says, I will not call my mum, I will answer, but be short and sweet when I talk. Honestly, she's getting off light, but the important thing is that you're finally approaching this relationship on your own terms. Congrats, and thanks for the update. And OP replies, in some ways I agree that she's getting off easier than she should, but to start this fight would be like punching a brick wall. It would hurt me much more than her, because she simply won't acknowledge to me that there is a disparity. And without that acknowledgement, I'll never know why there is a disparity in the first place. That being said, Keeping her at arm's length is probably the best I can do for now without losing the relationship I have with my dad. You're doing the right thing by dropping the fight, as it won't make a difference. I have similar issues with my parents, and reading this book really helped me too. Maybe it'll help you too. It's titled Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents: How to Heal from Distant, Rejecting, or Self-Involved Parents by psychologist Lindsay Gibson. It breaks down why some parents act the way they do, and strategies for healing from past issues and handling interactions. Your explanation for not confronting your mom aligns with what is said in the book. I'm sorry that you have to go through this. Hang in there, and congratulations on your baby. Our next post is by user Content Single Mum, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to have my son's bio father in my son's life? So I'm 40 female, my son is 5, his bio father male is 41. Background. I never wanted the typical socially approved life of dating, marriage/cohabiting, family, which is the preferred model in my country. I wouldn't mind children, but considered both IVF and adoption instead of going through the motions of a romantic relationship just to have them. I would have also been okay with co-parenting. 6 years ago, I had a fling with M. He works for the same company but a different department. He also comes from the same small town as me, which is how we actually got involved. I was on birth control, he was using condoms, but we became that small percentage statistic anyway. I found out early because of my yearly gyno exam. As I said, I wasn't opposed to the idea of kids, so I decided to keep it, in part because of my age. My country has a decent maternity leave system. My job pays well and allows me to work from home, and my parents wanted grandkids so much, they were not just willing, but eager to help me. I was in a really good position to be a single parent if it came to that. I still told M out of courtesy, and made it clear that I wasn't expecting anything financially or emotionally if he didn't want to be involved. If he wanted to be, we would be co-parents, nothing more. He declined, and didn't want to be a father at all. Okay, his choice, but I made it clear that no obligations also meant no rights. He agreed and signed his parental rights away a few months later. I wanted to be fair and give him a chance to think it over in case his first reaction wasn't what he really wanted. I moved back home with my parents, weathered the minor scandal, small towns love their gossip, gave birth, and took care of my son. Telling him, "You don't have a dad because some kids only have a mom," has been enough of an explanation for him so far, and my dad and brothers serve as the male role models, so he doesn't feel the lack of that kind of figure in his life either. On to the conflict. As I mentioned, M comes from the same town. Our company sent everyone to work from home in March, and he moved back in with his parents. He contacted me recently about wanting to meet my son and possibly acknowledging him as his own. I told him no. He hasn't been around before, why would he want to start now? He tried to tell me seeing the kid around town woke up his parental instincts, but I happen to know that his parents have been after him to settle down. Small towns really love their gossip. So I'm skeptical of that claim and find it more likely he sees my son as a way to appease his parents with a ready-made grandchild. I refuse to have my son used like that. As far as I'm concerned, neither of us need M in our lives, and he seems to only want to be around for selfish reasons, not because he really wants to connect with us. One parent who wants the kid 100% is better than two parents where one of them only sees the kid as a means to an end. Am I the a-hole for refusing to have my son's bio father in my son's life? For sure, if the situation was different and we didn't have the knowledge of his parents pressuring him at 41 years of age to settle down and move out of the house with someone, then yeah, my judgment may have been different. But unfortunately, times are tough, and he's had to move back in with his parents as a result of the pandemic. That's rough, and I imagine demoralizing for him to have to be in that situation whilst also having his parents hounding him for grandkids. That also sounds like a him problem though, and you can't be expected to help him make up for lost time when he signed those parental rights away. He's kept radio silence going for the last 5 years of your son's entire life. He's not done anything to earn that get-out-of-jail-free card. And yeah, it does seem like his reasons for reconnecting are entirely selfish, and will only damage the child when he inevitably abandons them. That's almost certainly going to happen, and it's good that you're here stopping that OP. So yeah, morally, you're not the a-hole for denying his request. You may be an a-hole if you allowed him back into your life though. Now in the comments, Imaginary Marsupial says, "Not the a-hole, but I think you're better off taking control of the situation, especially if you live in a small town and he might find an opportunity to introduce himself outside of your control." And OP replies, "I told my parents and brothers everything back when I was pregnant, so they know the situation and not to let M approach in public. There is also the global situation going on right now, and while our country is rather good at managing it, some restrictions still apply, so it cuts down on such opportunities. Whatever you want, just know that your child may feel differently as he grows older, and want a relationship with bio-dad. Consider keeping lines open so that it could be easier on your boy as he grows." And OP replies, "I'm taking that into consideration. I'm actually thinking of reaching out to M's parents and explaining to them. If they ease up on M and he still wants to be involved, great. If he doesn't, the grandparents will be able to fill blanks in regardless to that part of his family." And Candyland Canada says, "This is a difficult situation with nuances that can't be appreciated by strangers on the internet. I have no idea whether there is a right answer. I hope that you come up with a solution that you find acceptable. I would add this. Family secrets always come out, often in the worst possible way. In making your decision how to handle this, you may want to consider how best to blunt the nastier edges of those secrets. If you control the narrative, then you can present it in the best possible way for your child. If a petty gossip does, then you lose that opportunity." And OP replies, "I'm thinking a lot about what I can, might, should, and shouldn't do. As for the petty gossip, I'm keeping an eye on all the possible sources for the thing to come out, so I should be able to keep the worst away from my son if it comes to that." Jeremy Crowhurst says, "You're the a-hole. Your son is going to spend his whole life wanting his father, wondering who he is, and lying to you about it, since you've made it clear what you want to hear. So you're going to deny him a father because... why? You don't want him to be used? Lady, if your town is that small, there's no way in hell you'll be able to keep that secret. When your son finds out that he had and has a father, and you fought so hard to keep them apart, I wouldn't want to be you. You are choosing a road that will inevitably lead to great, lifelong pain over a road that might perhaps result in some pain, but might well result in great happiness." And OP replies, "My son is 5 right now. I tried to keep the conversations we've had so far about his father, both age and situation appropriate. As he gets older, he might want to know more, and in that case, I will tell him more. Again, as will be age and situation appropriate. Up until recently, the father situation was akin to if I had used a sperm donor or had a random one-night stand and didn't know the identity of him. I have a reason to doubt the father's desire for involvement, so I'm cautious. If he proves his sincerity, well, we will go from there." And now on to the update. So I was recently reminded about my post. I created this account with a less often used email address, and there have been some developments. I'm posting this mainly for closure for myself, but also in case some people were curious about how things developed. M had a car accident in late October and passed away. I was upset by this for various reasons, mainly related to my son. I mentioned in my responses to the original post that I was willing to facilitate the relationship if I saw proof M genuinely wanted to be a present father, and it felt unfair to have that chance torn away like that, regardless of what I thought about its likelihood. In early December, I was contacted by M's parents. It turns out M told them about my son after all. When I asked why they didn't come forward earlier, as in before M's death, they said they felt like the situation was of M's doing and he should have been the one solving it. Plus, they knew me in passing, and even more from my aunt's stories, so they hoped that we would be able to reach a compromise, either me with M or eventually me with them. I took my son to meet them on St. Stephen's Day, Boxing Day. They got him some gifts, consulted by me, and we broke the fact that they were his other grandparents. We spoke of his father in terms of him having had a very busy workday and then having an accident and going to heaven before he could meet him. He was upset, but it seemed to be more of a sadness at the loss of an idea than the concrete person. I'm currently looking up child psychologists to help him deal with the whole thing. He seemed to get along well with his new grandparents, if a bit shy. The world situation being what it is complicates matters, but I'm more than able and willing to take all necessary precautions, up to regularly paying for the PCR tests for both families to move things along. My son will never know his bio-father personally, but he will have his grandparents who certainly want to know and love him, and for him to be loved and never doubt it is everything I could ever want. Now in the comments, Nightgasm says, I hope your son has a good relationship with his grandparents. They deserve it if they're willing to be a part of his life. I have a cousin who got pregnant around age 18. Long story, but bio dad ended up committing suicide a week before birth. My cousin met a new guy when her son was about 9 months old, and is now still with him 10 years later, and has a kid with him now too. He obviously is the only father her son knows, but she never cut out the bio grandparents. So he now basically has 3 sets of grandparents. Her parents, new dad's parents, and bio grandparents. He's very lucky compared to some like my kids who had a single grandparent. My ex-wife abandoned all of us when they were young, and her parents have never even met them, nor tried. And I haven't spoken to my father in 25 years. And OP replies, at the time I made my original post, I was already leaning towards the option of fostering a relationship with the paternal grandparents, regardless of the outcome with M. Your cousin is very lucky, and I'm sorry things didn't work out as well for you. I guess my situation is helped by the fact that my country is still culturally multi-generational by default, so having grandparents present in the grandchildren's lives is both expected and encouraged. Please don't forget that your son is entitled to inherit his father's estate, assuming there's no spouse or other children, and is also eligible for Social Security survivors benefits. And OP replies, to be perfectly honest, I haven't given much thought to the financial aspect. I am not in the US, so our laws are different in a number of things. I think the survivor's benefits only apply in the case of the child being dependent on the deceased, which was not the case. As for the estate, I guess that's something to discuss with the grandparents. But as I said, not in the US, so a lot of the financial anxiety, re-healthcare, school tuition, eventual housing and so on, is considerably less. I'd rather focus on the less material aspect of the whole thing first. And yes, I realize how much of a privilege that is. Obligatory Burner says, my gosh, OP, that's so unfortunate. Given the new information, I still don't think you were in the wrong on the original post, and I think you're absolutely in the right now. I genuinely hope that you and your Small have a fulfilling life, and grandparents are amazing to Small. Best of luck. And OP replies, thank you, I just want to do what's best for my Slineko, weird name, to make sure that he's as happy as it's possible to be. I know I'll sometimes get things wrong, and sometimes I won't even know if I got it right or wrong until later, but all I can do is try my best. Beautiful, OP. The whole post is well written, and I can sense the love for your son. I think your suspicions about him trying to enter your son's life were well placed. I'm sure it was a difficult decision to make. And OP replies, thank you. There is that old adage of how we should not speak ill of the dead, so I'm going to focus on the fact that no matter what happened between me and M, he's still the man who gave me the greatest gift of all, and leave it at that. Alright guys, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you need a good laugh, please do check out my second channel, Markee 2, links down in the description below, or it's going to appear somewhere on the screen here at the end, little bubble with my face on it. As always, a big shout out to my Patreon and channel members. Your faces are surrounding me right now, and I love to have you guys with me, and down in the comment sections of each and every video, and just knowing that you're always there to support me. It's a humbling and lovely feeling. And rest assured, I do see you, and I do notice your support, and I thank you every day for being here and helping me along this journey. Not much else to say besides that, guys. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I do hope that you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I will see you in the next video, and thank you again. Bye.